It's a Tuesday. We're saying welcome to Breakfast Central. Let's kick off right away in Nigeria, where the Nigeria Labour Congress has given the government a 21-day ultimatum, especially a 21-day time frame to resolve issues raised by the union following the removal of petrol subsidy. Now, this is coming after a meeting between representatives of the federal government and officials of the Nigeria Labour Congress over threats to embark on a strike action following the non-implementation of resolutions reached in past meetings. Marvelous Obomanu tells us more in this report.
The latest invitation by the government is coming days after the NLC ended its two-day warning strike. This is after shunning an earlier meeting with the federal government to embark on the strike over increasing hardship and suffering across the country caused by the removal of fuel subsidy. In what almost looked like an outburst of emotion, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress said that Nigerian workers have continued to pass through several forms of hardship since the removal of petrol subsidy.
The strike is an effect of a policy that doesn't have human face. There was no strike before the issue of removal of fuel subsidy and promises. In fact, it was the government that said, ask for palliative, ask for wage. And we have asked for it. And we couldn't get any. That strike was a product of frustration, warning strike, up to this moment. So under your watch, a trade union office has been violated. Police invaded it and removed the elected officers of that trade union office. They went ahead and killed somebody. As we talk now, those people are behind bars, a president and general secretary of a union. It has never happened anywhere in the world. You brought a coup against a union, you remove their leadership, and somebody announces himself as caretaker committee chairman under the watch of the Minister of Labour.
He said he was unsure that the meeting will yield any positive outcome, as several engagements with government and its representatives have ended in futility.
We have had so many meetings, some beyond this level, and nothing seemed to be coming out of it. But as great optimists in the Nigerian project, we can't stop trying. So we are here with that belief that something may happen. But that doubt, that trust gap is yet to be filled.
The Minister of Labour and Employment appealed to the organized labor to be pragmatic in their demands, bearing current economic realities in the country.
Your dedication and tireless advocacy have been critical in shaping a fair and inclusive work environment and ensuring the well-being of our workforce. We acknowledge the valid grievances that have fueled the recent labor crisis, and we are committed to addressing them in a just and equitable manner. We must also recognize the economic realities that confront us. As we address the concerns of our workforce, we must be mindful of striking a balance that promotes economic growth and secures sustainable progress for our nation.
The meeting later entered into a closed-door section, which lasted almost 2 hours. At the end of the meeting, both parties agreed to reach a common ground, which will be beneficial to all. At the end of the closed-door meeting, the federal government has agreed to critically look at the demands made by the organized labor union in Nigeria before the 2 weeks ultimatum given by the Nigerian Labour Congress comes to an end. Marvelous Obomanu reporting for News Central.
We're taking a look at that. 21 days ultimatum is what the NLC has given to the federal government. Of course, you did have that in the package, and the reasons were indeed clearly stated. Olive, we've not seen any directive as of now up until when Nigerians have been waiting, expecting that there'll be a clear indication on how provisions will be made for Nigerians who have asked for palliatives. We've seen pictures here and there where people are indeed receiving somewhat of a palliative in different parts of the country, but it cannot be held as concrete. So the NLC is saying, what are the measures that are put in place? As we speak now, let's clearly also mention that the prices of commodities will further skyrocket. It has increased, and we're expecting more. Fuel prices, as we learned yesterday, may also be reviewed, may go upwards as well. We've seen that of gas as well, which is also being discussed. So all of these things, NLC said, while these things are happening, and that major statement that was made, that fuel subsidy is gone, what has been put in place?
So,
You know,
whilst that's a valid question for the NLC to ask, another question that is being asked is the strength of the influence that the NLC wields. For the longest time, we've always seen NLC start strikes, halt strikes, or rather announce intended strikes, go into closed-door meeting with the federal government, halt the strike, give them a time frame, maybe like a week or two, announce another strike. You know, it's just a lot of inconsistencies in their actions and their words, such that one wonders about the efficacy of the strike action when they eventually go on the strike. So it's almost, I mean, I don't know how much effect the NLC strike will have at this point, and if it's even making things better or worse. Because right now, if there's a strike and the economy shuts down, things will get worse. We're going to expect a number of people to panic buy. No, not a number. Everybody will panic buy. And panic buy leads to hoarding and inflation of prices. So it's not even going to favor us at the end of the day. And still, by the time they're done with it, they may not even, you know, the federal government will appeal to them to come into a closed-door meeting to temporarily hold the strike. So come back, let's negotiate. Just sort of buying time. I really don't know what the NLC can do at this point to be able to ensure that they implement the policies and the changes that they want to see. I don't know if they have as much influence as they used to have back in the day. The NLC of back in the day, when the NLC sneezes, the government will catch a cold. I don't think that that's the situation right now.
It's also a tough one too, because you do recall that just a few weeks ago, they did go for a 3-day warning strike. It didn't really look like a 3-day warning strike.
The world was, nothing shut down. Everything was normal.
Was going on.
Yeah.
We did hear that it had a major impact in states like Benin, here in Lagos. Life was
the day
pretty
before,
much the same.
I had seen people going to buy things. Oh, the NLC is going on strike the next day. Everything was just normal the next day. Everybody was going about their regular businesses. The transport sector didn't seem affected. So that brings me back again to the question of whether Nigerians still believe in the NLC and the cause that the NLC is fighting. Last year, when we had the Academic Staff Union of University strike that had lasted for months, on the 26th of July, the NLC joined in on the strike. And you would think if they had that much influence that, you know, now that the NLC is joining on the strike, sort of shutting down the economy, would see some form of change. Nothing really.
Well, it's either they go on strike or they decide to do it appropriately. Appropriately here simply means either they sit down with the federal government and mark areas and angles where these commodities or these so-called palliatives can actually reach the public. But then again, think about it as well. 8,000 naira per household.
Also, beyond the 8,000 naira per household, some of the things they're asking for is that the fuel prices revert to status quo. Do you see the possibility of that? I remember also having a representative of the NLC on the show, and I asked him, what you're asking for is one thing to ask for another thing, for something. It's another thing to be sure that the person you're asking this thing of is capable of meeting that need at that point. Do you think that at this point, there's a possibility that Nigeria can revert to 185 naira, I believe, per liter? I was just thinking about it yesterday when I went to buy fuel, that it's interesting how we've all just adjusted to buying fuel at 500 naira to the liter. Uncomfortably so, because every time I buy fuel, my heart is bleeding. I bought fuel yesterday, I paid 30,000 naira, my heart was bleeding. Because on a normal day, that 30,000 naira would last me a long while.
It should take you for a month
or so. Thereabouts, or maybe at least 3 weeks. At least. Thereabouts. But now, every week, I have to update my fuel, right? I have to refill my tank. So we've adjusted, unfortunately. Life has become tougher. We've just had to cut down on our spending expenses. Do we want the fuel cost to go down? Certainly, absolutely. But as is the case in Nigeria, what goes up doesn't always come down. So I don't see the possibility of the NLC being able to implement the reverse to status quo standpoint. I don't see that happening. If they're able to, I will be most grateful, incredibly grateful, Because at the end of the day, it's all of us to favor. But I don't know if they have that much influence.
Let's see. Hopefully, they do have that much influence. But a lot of Nigerians have said categorically, also on social media, that they do not think that the NLC still retains its past glory like they were known for. Whenever a strike was being called for, then you expect a complete shutdown. But on the other side, on the flip side, many are saying that it's high time Nigerians go on this strike. It's high time things should shut down. Things should definitely shut down for as long as it may, because it seems like the federal government is speaking from one side and not making the demands met, not meeting the demands of Nigerians.
But that one is classic federal government behavior now. It's classic. It's the same thing as
so that's the reason why people are saying, listen, you know what, let's just shut it down. Let's try it. I mean, for the longest, they haven't tried a longer strike. Possibly maybe 2 weeks and then they're back, and then the previous one just 3 days and then they're back, and now they're saying, listen, you know what, let's really go for the big one. Let's do the big one
ahead of time, and like, let's be sure so we can just stock up things in our house so hunger won't kill us.
Yeah, but you see, what I don't like most importantly is that stocking up. That stocking up, you see people agitating. I do recall one of the strikes that was supposed to take place, and then they said stock up, and eventually people stocked up. And then at the end of the day, it was as if it was a child's play. Oh, okay, don't worry, we're going to pull up the strike.
Why people will not take them serious when they call it strike.
Let's go back to work. We're fine. After a few days, people are like,
after
are we jokers or what?
To stock up food.
You know, I mean, a bag of rice is not cheap. So is the oil and gas, which, if care is not taken, we're looking at the prices going up anytime soon. So it's a big case, it's a clear case of understanding what the NLC is indeed asking for, and if the federal government will indeed be able to meet the demands in 21 days. But my calculation, 21 days starting from today should fall exactly on October the 10th. That means we have from between now and the 10th of October, carrying on the countdown as it may, just as the NLC has indeed given the federal government 21 days to implement resolutions. Now, don't forget, some of these resolutions has been mentioned by the special, talking about the special assistant, if I put it that way, a special advisor, I beg your pardon, on media to the president, talking about Ngilali, who has said that there will be transport made available to the public to ensure that they reduce the spending on transportation, buses in different parts of the country. He did mention that in one of his recent interviews, but there was a question that many are asking. When? You know, it's different from saying we're going to have buses. I do recall during the tenure of, during the time of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, when, of course, the NLC did go on a strike due to fuel subsidy removal. One of the things he had mentioned was he's going to make sure that there are buses, their transportation is indeed catered to for Nigerians in different parts of the states and different parts of the country, so that people can actually move with ease. Because if you can subsidize the transportation fare, take for instance, if it takes one person to move from point A to point B, and the cost for moving that far is about 1,500 naira, if the government says, listen, we're going to ensure that we take off 700 naira from you, you're just paying 800 naira for instead of 1,500. I think that a bit eases the mood of the people. They can actually move from one place to the other, knowing that they don't have to pay
as much as
they can.
Yeah.
But now you have the special advisor on media saying this is one of the things we're planning to do, which was one of the things the previous administration was also planning to do. So some people have said it's like a blueprint of what someone else wanted to do. But that's not all. Let's even leave that. The point now is when. That's what the NLC is also addressing. Let us know when. Let's have this clarity, and so we can actually.
The sad thing is, again, the people of Nigeria, whilst they've also lost trust in NLC, they've lost trust with the federal government for the longest time. Even more recently, with the inconsistency in reports and stories that the federal government has given, the Dubai alleged visa lifting of the visa ban in Dubai, I think that was also a very embarrassing situation, because people went celebrating and rejoicing and thinking that, okay, at least there's something positive to be excited about, to lift up people's spirits. It just feels like something is being done. And now they're coming back to say another story. How would you expect that a government that could lie in broad daylight, lie without the fear of repercussions, lie without the fear of how Nigerians would handle this? How do you expect to believe that government when they tell you, okay, in 21 days, we're going to put so and so measures in place to ensure that life is better for Nigerians. A government that's been making promises since June. We're in September. Things haven't gotten better. Things have actually gotten worse. I don't know how people would really believe that. Anyway.
It's a tough one. It's really tight. And hopefully we'll keep bringing you updates, especially to all those who are looking forward to see what the NLC has up its sleeves.